Coming up on Tekzilla, cheap HDMI cables or the overpriced stuff from the big box store. The world's most expensive sewing machine ever? Not even close. 3D cameras aren't just for big studios anymore, and tips for troubleshooting your Wi-Fi connection. So boil up some spaghetti and heat up the marinara sauce, because Tekzilla starts now. This episode of Tekzilla is made possible by GoDaddy, Dead Space 2 in stores January 25th, and Freshbooks online invoicing. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Tekzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or the secret ingredient in making the best French onion soup ever, we've got an answer for you.
And if we don't, we'll track down a chef that can actually cook. You know, we usually start out the show on a pretty perky note. That's like, it bleeds, it leads, it's all exciting and fun. We want bright, shiny news, but it was actually pretty hard to ignore the Apple media advisory that went out bright and early Monday before we recorded. If you haven't seen it, Steve Jobs is taking a medical leave of absence, or another medical leave of absence, to focus on his health.
Yes, and while we love to embody the Steve as the responsible party for anything Apple that irritates us, we hope that Mr. Jobs makes a speedy recovery and returns to Apple soon. Though judging from the letter's insistence that he will be involved in major strategic decisions for the company while Tim Cook runs it day to day, is he really leaving? Also, Patrick says thanks for letting users decide for themselves in iOS 4.3 beta if the hardware orientation switch on the iPad, if the switch controls the screen or works as a mute button, which we're all very happy about. So please let it survive in the shipping version of 4.3. That would be awesome.
And on a more traditional snarky note, by the way, props to Steve and Apple for taking care of the shareholders as best they could. The note went out on a national holiday when the stock markets are closed. That minimizes the impact on stock prices the day before Apple drops quarterly earnings, which are expected to be the biggest in the organization's history. Seriously though, Steve, we tease because we care. Good luck, and I hope it's not the pancreas again.
Yeah. On a more cheerful note, props to 8th grader Robert Ney of Spanish Fork, Utah, and his mom, Carrie. They're the team behind Bubble Ball, which knocked the app that rules them all, Angry Birds, from the #1 spot on the iTunes store for free apps. Whew, that thing has been up there for...
What, forever?
For like the past, different iterations of the free version of Angry Birds have been topping that chart for the longest time, for as long as I can remember anyway. Yeah, VentureBeat.com has a great article on the Nays, noting that Angry Birds was created by a team at Helsinki-based Rovio, which has dozens of employees and has made more than 50 mobile games since 2003. The Bubble Ball team equals Nay's mom doing the graphics and Nay himself doing the programming. And in case you're looking for iOS dev tips, VentureBeat says Nay found that creating an iPhone game was easy thanks to tools such as the Corona SDK from Anska Mobile, which lets users create graphically rich applications and games for the iPhone, iPad, and Android. Not bad for free development tools, though I think you need the $349 paid version to actually publish to the App Store.
Yeah, so for everybody in there who's like, no, nobody can ever make cool indie games anymore, you're wrong. Because like Minecraft, made by like a dude in his garage, which had zillions of signups last year. Oh, and from the oh yeah, I should have mentioned that department, Gabriel writes in, hey Tekzilla crew, this is in response to the question submitted by Michael from Glasgow, Kentucky about WPA2 security. The sessions initiated by users to a bank are encrypted so that data passing through your router to and from your financial institution benefit from an additional layer of security. In other words, when you're doing Wi-Fi to your bank, your data is encrypted twice. HTTPS inside of WPA2. Bear in mind that just because you can sit in a Starbucks and do your financial jiu-jitsu while sipping on a latte and nomming on a scone while SSL does the heavy lifting doesn't mean you should. I hope this helps, and thanks, Gabriel in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, as a DEF CON veteran, I just want to make sure that you've got your WeLock, your HTTPS showing up in your browser before you enter your password and your login, that your security software is up to date to make sure there's not a keylogger on your system tracking anything you might be typing into that page, and never use a URL in an email. Type the bank's URL in yourself in the browser window so you aren't suckered into typing your login and password on a fake website. Phishing with a PH sucks.
Yes, and from the Hey, We've Been Challenged department, a very nice man named Carl is looking to fire up our charity water donations one last time. He'll match up to $2,500 in donations to our charity water campaign. Charity Water digs wells, and all the money you donate goes to that, providing clean, safe water for communities in need around the world.
So if we raise another $2,500, that's half a well. He'll donate a matching $2,500, which I think will bring us up to like three or four wells, close to 5 wells at this point. We've already raised $13,239.69 between Tekzilla and HD Nation. That's clean water for a lot of folks, and donating even $1 will help. Please, if you got a minute, go to revision3.com/charitywater, click on the Tekzilla link, and donate, and we're going to see if we can make another well happen.
Exactly. First question, though, today. Dan B. from Philly asks, hey, TC crew, could you go over how these 3D HD TVs act in normal 2D mode? Is the brightness of the picture still changed because of the polarization on top of the glass, or can they turn that off on the fly? Thanks, Dan from Philly.
Well, for active shutter systems, first of all, most of the 3D TVs that are available now, which are active shutter systems, the screens are exactly the same as 2D screens. If you don't have the glasses on and 3D programming on the screen, you're not going to see a difference. 3D HD TVs look exactly like 2D HD TVs when you don't have the stupid glasses on. So basically, the thing that makes 3D less bright than 2D on the current systems is the tinted glasses with the liquid crystal shutters. Yeah. And basically the way they shutter on and off, the tint is what makes the screen looks less bright. Passive 3D systems are a whole different ball of wax, but 2D on a passive 3D system should pretty much look the same. Glasses-free 3D HD TVs, which I have difficulty saying, are a whole different kettle of weasels. They have the lens system on the HD TV itself, and basically, you lose half the definition of the HDTV to do 3D. I'm not going to explain that right now, but they are, so essentially they will be less bright, possibly based on the lens system that's mounted on the front of the passive 3D HDTV, but you know what, they're barely products yet, so let's have that discussion after they ship, though. Seriously though, if you're buying a 3D HD TV, do not worry about your 2D programming. It's going to look fantastic, at least if it's one of the TVs that require glasses. Glasses, HD TV, 3D is pretty much the same. It's so funny. Like, people are like, I don't want to buy a TV with 3D glasses. I don't want to buy a TV that connects to the internet. And the truth is, you pretty much don't have a choice.
If you're getting a new TV at this point, it's like you might as well.
At least, yeah, especially by the end of this year, it's just going to be a checkbox feature for HDTV manufacturers. You might find low-end models that don't include that stuff.
And they're more expensive now, but that's really going to come down over the next year, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how low they can go, because the prices have come down so much.
How low can they go? Well, it's time now to thank one of our sponsors, GoDaddy. GoDaddy.com makes it easy to customize your own virtual dedicated server. Choose one of 3 popular plans, or select your own Linux or Windows server with all the plan options you need. Plus, with GoDaddy's free downloadable iPhone, Android, or BlackBerry app, you can place orders, manage your current domains, and more right from your phone. So sign up today and use the code TEK8 to get 10% off any order. That's TEK8 to get 10% off your order. And remember to check out revision3.com/GoDaddy for a list of all the amazing GoDaddy deals from Revision 3. Pri in Naperville emailed us this question. I'm finishing my basement in a few weeks, and I'm finishing a theater room, and I've got a few questions for you. Are fancy HDMI cables worth it, or are monoprice brand fine? I have about a 4K to 4.5K to spend on the projector, AV receiver, speakers, Blu-ray player, and screen, and all the necessary cables. The room is 9 by 22 and 7 foot 11 inches ceiling. Any recommendations? Pri in Naperville, Illinois. Yeah, I don't know how many times we have to tell you guys this, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, like, really, pay attention when we say this. You do not need to spend extra money on those fancy HDMI cables. It's BS. Monoprice's brand is great for most situations. In fact, we use our HDMI cables right here in our studio. Mm-hmm. Right. We saw the monster cable guys at CES this year rolling on by us, and it took everything in my power
to not
to go and be like, why, rage face,
Look, if by all means, if you derive self-esteem from a gold-plated, you know, designer colored HDMI cable that costs $130 does exactly the same job as a $7 cable from monoprice.com, nay, a $3 cable from monoprice.com. Please spend money, power the economy, keep yourself happy. For the rest of us, go to monoprice.com, or if you want to try to find the closest thing to an American-made cable possible, check out Blue Jeans Cable.
Yes, Blue Jeans.
You do not, though. Somebody in the store tells you, you know, Veronica, if you're going to get the full performance out of your new 3D HD TV with internet connectivity, you need one of these high-end cables from Monster. Rip their face off.
Say, suck it.
You can do that, too. But basically, the expensive cables, like the expensive branded cables, because a lot of the big box stores now have cheaper cables stored in awkward places where you can't find them. The best thing about the big expensive cables for the big box stores is that they make a huge margin on them. A giant chunk of that overprice you pay goes straight into their pockets. They like that. They
do indeed. So basically, no, you don't need to spend that much money. It's fine. Save your money, spend it on cool gear, spend it on like an awesome TV or projector, whatever else you're getting for your brand new theater room. It should be, you'll be fine. I promise.
In terms of everything else that you're buying, you're going to be spending at least $800 to $1,000 for a 1080p projector. I'm a big fan of the HD20 from OptomaUSA.com. Optoma is the website. Or I should say Optoma is the company, Optoma USA is their US website. If it's a big room and you've got a lot of distance, you might consider going to a 720p projector, but I would avoid that personally. I go with a 1080p projector. And about the only one that's going to allow you to own a surround sound set of speakers and a receiver and the projector itself is going to be the Optoma. Everything else, you jump to about $3,000, and then Robert's new favorite, which is kind of the JVC projector he was talking about a week or two ago. That one's $4,500 for the projector alone. So I would take a look at Optoma's HD20. Building on a question we had last week about eSATA and USB, Emmett writes in, I currently use an express card adapter to connect my 2 Western Digital hard disk drives via eSATA. I also have a myriad of other devices connected to my computer, which gets bottlenecked by my 2 USB hubs. I thought maybe you know of a hub that could connect to my computer via high-speed eSATA or USB 3.0 with mini USB and FireWire ports. I would prefer to keep my eSATA configuration for the sake of convenience, but I weigh more importance to creating a system that functions well. Emmett.
Yeah, unfortunately there isn't a hub that would allow you to cram all those different bus architectures into, say, an eSATA or USB 3.0 port. As we've mentioned in the previous show, FireWire, eSATA, and USB 3 are not compatible architectures. Right. They do make adapters that allow a SATA drive to connect via USB or FireWire port to, FireWire port to the other direction.
Right. You can turn a SATA drive into, you can connect a SATA drive to FireWire, eSATA, or USB. You might consider getting a USB 3.0 adapter. Because the problem is like Emmett's using a notebook, so he's kind of hosed on the whole bus thing. If you could get a USB 3.0, you could get like an express card that does USB 3.0 or an express card that combines FireWire and USB. You'll lose the eSATA functionality in that case, but you could split your USB ports between the FireWire / USB adapter in your, I hate that word. Express card. You basically do an express card for some FireWire plus USB, and then use some of the other USB ports. Problem is USB hubs get bottlenecked if you use a lot of devices, and
Yeah, I've been having that problem at home also.
Actually, you could do the Western Digital drives to FireWire. Oh, then you have to put them in different enclosures unless you have the drives that did eSATA and FireWire. It's a mess, dude. Get a desktop.
Up next, Keith in Lodi asked us the following. All my Wi-Fi devices, a TiVo box using a network adapter, a new iPod Touch, and a Canon Wi-Fi printer regularly lose connection to my wireless router. It's a Netgear WGR614 version 7 with the latest software. I use Comcast cable with standard dynamic IP addressing. To resolve the problem, I simply cut and restore power to the router. Is this a normal consequence for using a dynamic IP, or does this signify a problem with my broadband service or my router? Keith in Lodi.
I had this problem with a router I formerly owned. The only fix for it was actually replacing the router.
So it's probably the router is probably the issue here.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, first off, let's make sure, Comcast provides DHCP. Basically, they dynamically assign you an IP address for your router in your home. Then you're using DHCP inside the router to supply IP addresses to all the devices in your home. Something you could try if basically, because like the thing kind of tipped me off is like I yank the plug, I plug it up.
Yeah, cycling it usually helps, and then if it keeps happening, that's probably not a good indicator.
Yeah, you might want to try resetting all the factory settings inside. There's no updates for your router, right? So it's either going to run or it's not, and Netgear has never issued an update for that router, which always makes me a little nervous. I would make sure that the router is set to the original factory settings, then go in, of course, and change your password and log in again. But sometimes you might find yourself doing something strange with the settings and basically the period of time, the number of seconds the license lasts, because you can end up allocating all of your IP addresses. It's something I'm not going to explain very well because it's a very weird kind of concept, but sometimes routers get stuck, and the only way to fix them, to unbork them, is to unplug it and restart it. Man, and I gotta say,
that's the first thing Comcast tells you to do whenever there's any trouble anyway.
Yes.
Like, cycle your router, cycle your modem. Do them both at the same time.
Stand on one head. Does that feel uncomfortable? Perfect. Don't call again. I would probably replace the router. You could also, if your individual devices that you have, if your printer and everything else will allow you to program in a static IP, I would try programming in a static IP and see if that solves it. If it doesn't, I'm saying it's time to update and get to a new router.
Or even just borrow someone's router from down the hall or something, see if that fixes it, and then you know probably need a new router. Yeah. All right, well, it's time to thank one of our sponsors, Dead Space 2. Isaac Clarke returns for another blood-curdling adventure in the sequel to Visceral Games' critically acclaimed blockbuster, Dead Space. Waking up from a coma inside the massive space city known as the Sprawl, the lone survivor of a horrific alien infestation finds himself confronting a new nightmare. Equipped with an arsenal of new tools to dismember the necromorphs, Isaac must face the challenge head-on. So get ready to fire up Isaac's suit boosters to rocket around in zero gravity like never before. Explore the depths of the Sprawl and encounter new weightless combat and physics-based puzzles with full 360-degree movement. And for the first time, experience the horror of a necromorph outbreak with others. Fight in skirmishes around the Sprawl and strategically dismember your friends in online multiplayer gameplay. So be on the lookout for Dead Space 2 in stores January 25th. Looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, InstantWatcher.com. Everyone loves Netflix streaming, and with the number of devices it's available on nowadays, it's hard to escape it. But the hardest part about using Netflix streaming is finding awesome titles to add to your queue. Luckily, Tekzilla viewer Steven 3X pointed us to Netflix Instant Watcher at InstantWatcher.com. Using the Netflix API, InstantWatcher not only allows you to easily browse movies by genre, it also shows you which titles are hottest right now with reviewers, what's being streamed the most, and what films are being queued up as we speak. Clicking on a title will bring you to its information page, where you can get more details, add it to your queue, and see what other titles are similar. This is an awesome way to find new instant streaming options without needing to browse around the clunky Netflix streaming interface. Check it out at InstantWatcher.com today. While 3D HD TVs with and without glasses were making waves at this year's CES, 3D video cameras also proved to be just as popular, like Sony's latest 3D camcorder. Hey everyone, Veronica Belmont here at CES 2011, here at the Sony booth in the Central Hall, taking a look at a wonderful 3D camcorder here, and Branson's going to tell us all about it. So what are the specs on this device?
This camera has everything. So we're starting with 2 of our premium Series G quality lenses. Those are going to give you the best optics. Also, we're going to have 2 of our Bion's image processors, which are going to process that signal for you, and 2 of our CMOS Exmor R sensors, which are really going to give you 1080, full 1080p to each eye for 3D.
Excellent. And when is this available, and how much are people going to pay for this?
This is going to be available in April of this year for $14.99, and I'll tell you, we're getting a lot of great response from it. They like the fact that now you can shoot your own content in 3D, and we're seeing a lot of excitement.
Now, how much memory does this device hold? Does it take a lot more since it is shooting in 3D?
Yes, a little bit more, but again, we're encoding at 28 megabits per second. There is an internal 64 gig internal hard drive, and another key point about the camera is that while you are recording in 3D, you are actually able to view your 3D content on this screen just by selecting 2D to 3D display. So that's something that's huge for us. We're really excited about, and we're hoping the industry accepts it.
Anything else different about this camera that makes it stand out from everything else?
Yeah, we're actually offering 10 times optical zoom in 3D with optical image stabilization. So really, really crisp images, very fluid-like motion, and the camera can automatically adjust your optical image stabilization for you.
Great, thank you so much.
Of course, CES 2011 was more than just fancy TVs, Android tablets, or new wireless data formats. In fact, I came across one most impressive piece of technology that combines the traditional art of embroidery with 21st century computer-aided design and speed.
Patrick Norton here for Tekzilla CES 2011. I do admit, I like sewing machines, I like embroidery, I like vintage chain stitch. And you know what? This is not vintage chain stitch. This is the Entrepreneur Pro Brothers PR1000. This is out of control. This is professional level embroidery you can have in your house. Check that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 colors simultaneously. But the really crazy stuff is how it can automate incredibly sophisticated embroidery. Take a look at this photo down over here to the left, an embroidery made from it. PE Designs is a software built into the sewing machine itself. Matter of fact, so are video tutorials, so you can scan the picture and turn it into a pretty amazing piece of embroidery. How much? About $13,000. But if you're looking for a small business you can run out of your home and something that's maybe a little more sophisticated you might find otherwise, check this one out. Ladies and gentlemen, Entrepreneur Pro PR1000, and that's from here at CES 2011 from Brother.
Ah, the fancy sewing machine.
It's like $11,000 worth of fancy sewing machine. Yeah.
Nice.
The commercial ones get really expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
Let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Freshbooks. Freshbooks is an easy-to-use online invoicing service that saves you time, gets you paid faster, and can make you look more professional. Extra promise? Yeah, the Freshbooks people say you might actually enjoy invoicing, which is a sometimes free. Actually, I've spent half my adult life freelancing. I can't believe the idea of invoicing can actually be pleasurable. Want to find out for yourself? It's easy. You can get started with Freshbooks completely free. Just go to freshbooks.com and sign up for a free account. And for all you Tekzilla viewers, here's something really cool. Freshbooks is going to give away a birthday cake every day to somebody that signs up from our show. All you need to do is put Tekzilla in the How Did You Hear About Us section when you sign up. So if you want a chance to win a free birthday cake, sign up today. And no, it doesn't have to be your birthday for you to win. But who doesn't love birthday cake? Veronica loves birthday cake.
I do love cake. It's true. Last week, Don wrote in asking about secure Dropbox replacements that didn't involve all his stuff living in the cloud. You guys wrote in with force. First off, Lifehacker suggests a blog post from Faker.com. This method uses Lsynced and iNotify to make an open source Debian GNU Linux Dropbox clone. The instructions are on the link and they're very thorough, so check them out if this method seems up your alley. And thanks to Todd and the others who sent that link in. Paul recommended Tonito Plug, which is actually very similar to Pogo Plug, which we've also mentioned on the show before. Your data is stored locally on your own devices, like an external hard drive, for example, and the plugs let you access it from anywhere.
I love Pogo Plug as an idea for individual users, Tonito Plug. I don't think they're going to scale the way this guy's needs for a corporation.
That's probably true.
Unless you want to put like a Pogo Plug on every single desk in the building, which the Pogo Plug or Tonito Plug people would love.
Yeah, that's true. Frank, Ian, and Corbinian all recommended Windows Live Mesh, which allows you to sync multiple computers and access files remotely. Ian also notes Jungle Disk, which not only offers backup from multiple machines back to an S3 storage location, but it also offers a sync from local machines to the S3 storage, which can run on multiple machines back to the same S3 storage. That sounds a little complicated. This offers encrypted file transfer and encryption on S3 by default. So that's one possibility. A few people wrote in about that. And then Al wrote in with a very comprehensive list of similar services to Dropbox that he's tried. Hey guys, I've been hunting for these solutions for what appears to be years now, but there are a couple on my radar that have promise. So I won't go through all his pros and cons, but he said Power Folder was one that he really liked. Then we had Team Drive, which a few people recommended in email. Also iFolder, which another few people recommended. These all seem to be really good solutions for single use. I'm not sure how good they are for a larger group or a larger corporation.
Yeah, things get, like when you try to scale things to an enterprise level, things get kind of complicated.
Yeah. And then for another quick mention, Johnny wants you guys to check out iTwin at itwin.com, which uses a USB thumb drive to connect to computers. Yeah, that's another single solution one. I think there's going to be a lot of really more in the Linux zone of like, I feel like more of you guys need to speak up a little bit. I don't know why, I just feel like that is the server side solutions that they're probably looking for.
I think it was awesome that like everybody was like, Pogo Plug, you fools! And it's like, Pogo Plug's great for like me or you, or
Yeah.
for our house, or for, you know what I mean? But I don't think Pogo Plug's the answer for, you know, a corporation with hundreds of employees, or even dozens of employees.
And then people did say a lot about, like, you know, running encryption on the Dropbox folders themselves, and that might help a little bit.
Right.
But then I'd still be concerned about, even though I totally trust Dropbox and their safety and encryption.
I trust Google. I mean,
Well,
Facebook, by the way, not to be trusted. You know, Facebook is sharing your phone number and your address information directly with applications now.
Our next question comes from Alan, who writes in, I've been using Blogger Backup utility for several years now to make weekly backups of my blog. The backup generates an XML file, and I've always wondered, how do you use this file? Could you please explain what a person can do with this XML file and how it would be used should a person leave Blogger or if the site were to shut down? Alan. So as we mentioned, it's probably very unlikely that Blogger is just going to shut down because
Right.
it is a Google site and it has been successful for them. So I would be pretty surprised if that happened.
Yeah, the entire expense for Blogger is probably a rounding error on like the interest on Google's money in the bank for like a couple hours.
And they would also probably give you a myriad ways to back up or export your blog, migrate your blog to another services were that to happen. But since you're already taking the initiative, yes, you can use that file to move your content to another blogging platform. Typically a platform like WordPress, for example, will let you pull in your content from another blog automatically. You just go to their import page and it gives you all the instructions for, you know, log into the account, and then we're going to pull in all your posts and leave, you know, the formatting relatively intact. But if your current blog no longer exists, like you hit the delete button by accident, and then the yes, I really want to delete this button also by accident, it shouldn't be a problem unless it's a really, really big XML file. They'll let you import an XML file right into their blogging platform. And there are size limitations, though, for those files. You know, if there's a ton of content on there, you may have to break up the file a little bit.
Into multiple pieces.
Yeah, and they'll give you instructions on how to do that, too, so you don't have to worry. But it's good that you're already backing up. You don't have to worry about hitting the delete button by accident or if your blog site goes out of business. You have your content there, and nothing's worse than losing.
Deletion.
Nothing's worse than losing all those posts. Trust me, you don't want to have to live through that.
That would be bad. Hey, we want to thank everybody for watching out there. We love on your questions. So email us, Tekzilla@revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos. You ask us, we'll do it, but we need those emails. So don't be shy. Send them in to Tekzilla@revision3.com.
Even better, send us in a video question. Think of all the fun you can have and the admiration of all your friends and family when they see your mug on our show. Just keep it to 15 seconds, upload it to YouTube, and send us a link in an email with the video question in the subject line. And as always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Tekzilla. Thank you guys so much for watching.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Until next time, you've been watching Tekzilla.